This weekend, Sisu Road to Revenge crashes into theaters, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your thoughts on Sisu, and if you've seen Road to Revenge, what did you think about it? As for me, I was a big fan of the original Sisu, and I was actually able to see Road to Revenge at its world premiere at Fantastic Fest, and then the next day I was able to interview the director about the film. You can see the whole interview with the director right up here, kind of talking about how he went with this kind of bigger, faster moving story. Also, he's directing the next Rambo movie, so we talked about that a little bit, and you can check it out right up there. Also, I'll cut in a few clips from the interview into this review, and let's get started with the good. As I mentioned, I saw this at Fantastic Fest at its world premiere. Before it started, the director came out, gave his little pep talk where he said, this movie's bigger and better than the first film. They always say that. They said that before Black Phone 2 that also had its world premiere at Fantastic Fest, and thought Black Phone 2 was a pretty big step down from the quality of the original Black Phone. However, 30-40 minutes into Road to Revenge, I was thinking to myself, I think he was right. This is bigger and better than the first film, and it only kept getting better as it went along, with more extravagant action sequences, more satisfying kills, and even a few tears were shed at the end of the movie. Now, with this film, the director, when I talked with him, said that he wasn't immediately quick to want to make a sequel. He wanted to have the right idea.
What was the original idea that made you go, I want to do a sequel? There's an idea a story worth telling here.
Well, I tried to explain it also yesterday that I had an idea, but then I realized that it wasn't good enough, so I didn't want to do it. But afterwards, I got a new idea, which is now in the film about his home and stuff.
But eventually kept digging deeper until he found a story that kind of had the right emotional core for it and a mechanism to tell a story that had more movement. Like, he specifically was trying to tell a story that had this forward momentum and urgency to it.
So I was curious. So in the title of the movie, it's Road to Revenge, and literally the whole thing is like a road trip. It's all in motion from start to finish. I was curious what made you want to take that leap.
And basically, I've always been thinking that what is missing from all my films is speed. Like that I wanted to do something with speed and be in a constant movement and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the reason basically.
And ultimately what he came up with was sort of his version of Mad Max Fury Road, where it's a non-stop chase movie, and it's a vehicular chase movie. The first movie was kind of just a guy on the ground with his gold trying to survive. This is almost all vehicle-based. Planes, trains, automobiles, all of them tie into this movie, and each of those different vehicles has its own big chase sequence in different sorts of ways. And so it's just inherently right there, it's a much bigger and more sensational film because it's not just a guy being shot at with a machine gun, it's like a car chase of sorts. In the kind of the first big action set piece involves a truck and a bunch of motorcycles. It is very reminiscent of both the chase sequence in Raiders of the Lost Ark and the chase sequence with motorcycles in Last Crusade, merged together in the style of Sisu, which is to say ultra-violent, R-rated, cranked up to 11, and thrilling. And then that's followed up by like a plane sequence, which has, once again, similar to some stuff in Last Crusade, but kind of doing its own thing at the same time. And the whole end of this movie is a huge set piece on a train that has like a stealth sequence in it, where he has to like go through a room while trying to be quiet. And it does some like cringe humor or wince humor of he's like in pain and stuff's happening to him and he can't make any noises or he'll wake people up. There's shootouts, there's bombs, it's just pure insanity. But it just takes all of the action that I loved about the first film and this guy that refuses to die and just goes bigger with everything that takes place in the movie. The other thing that was very cool that it's in the first movie, but it's much more obvious with the second film, is it was designed to be very Finnish. It is a Finnish action film. The talent behind it is from Finland and everything. And so he wanted to incorporate both history of the country, their culture into it, how World War II affected their people, and kind of this stoic tone that is across both films, where we have a lead character that doesn't talk. The director specifically talked about how if it was up to him, this would have been a silent film, but he's like, you can't sell that. So, of course, we had to have some dialogue in there, but essentially I wanted to design it to function as a silent film. And that all comes from kind of his culture, but the plot of it, the geography of it, all these little details communicate something about his culture, and it adds just kind of this extra layer of history to everything taking place. All leading up to the end of the final scene in the movie, which, without wanting to say anything about what the specifics of it, the person to my right, who I believe had seen the first film, a guy in his 40s, and the girl to my left who hadn't seen the first movie, brand new to the franchise, both of them were tearing up a little bit in the final scene of the movie. All of it sort of tying back to that stoic worldview, but also the nature of their people in another way. And it takes this movie that's over the top, ultra violent, gory. It has this sentimental side to it, but that was very true to a specific culture. It's very culturally specific, but in a universal way that you can understand it. And it just there's something very sweet about the way that it's made. But so much of what makes the two Sisu movies pop and cut through is that you have a guy that's pulling in a bunch of kind of outside the box influences. He talked about Buster Keaton.
Well, I'd like to say it's like Buster Keaton or something like that to have, because I like to have the freedom when I do my films, like that I can decide what happens. I wanted to do something emotional and at the same time really fun stuff. And I don't have to pay attention to the laws of physics and stuff.
But then more obvious stuff, Indiana Jones, of course, just action movies in general. And he's incorporating his culture, all these different filmmaking techniques, while trying to make his own stamp on all of them. And it just gives it its own unique vibe. It's a movie that actually has a style to it. It has a worldview behind it. It has a cultural personality to it. And in a time where so many movies can just feel generic and factory generated, this feels like a movie that could only come out of this one person with his specific tastes and his specific cultural background. A few other nice things about it. You've got Stephen Lang as our villain, and he's just a nice upgrade of, I like the villains in the first movie too, but Lang has such a great presence. And he's a fantastic villain. The story itself is also much more personal, that incorporates Lang and how he ties into our lead character's history and what happened to his family and everything like that. And so you have a story that is personal for the villain, but it's also deeply personal for our protagonist, who's doing something that is... It's about all that he has left in this world. Once again, not wanting to say too much about it, but his mission, it's not about just getting some gold. It's about everything that he values, that everything that he has left in this world, he wants to take with him. And so it gives it just an emotional weight to it, both with the villain as well as our hero, leading up to the final scene where, in the context of everything that's taken place, it pulls out emotions that you're really not expecting to come out of a Sisu movie.
Yeah, that was my goal, to have like a really emotional feeling about Artemis' life, and my favorite scene is the final scene of the film, because I think it's pretty cool.
Yes.
And kind of going back to the Buster Keaton influences, he also talked about in other interviews how he was inspired by Looney Tunes. He wanted to make this very over-the-top film. It's played with a straight face. It's grim. It's serious. but it's wacky too. It's over the top. We'll talk about that in the part in the future, but like with the action, they keep putting our protagonist in these situations that seem impossible to get out of. And then you immediately, what's he going to do? How can he get out of this? And the fun of the movie is waiting to figure out what absolutely insane, crazy thing is he going to do in order to get out of this situation. And it keeps upping the ante. It keeps going wilder and crazier in ways that put a big grin on your face. So for me, as someone that really enjoyed the first film, I thought that this one was faster paced. It had more action. It had bigger action. It had a better villain. It had a more personal motivation for our hero as well as our villain. And it ended kind of on an emotional note I was not expecting to get from this movie. Put it all together, and I think it's just a more enjoyable film overall that does everything a little bit better than the first film. Of course, the original will always have that unique freshness of the first time we're introduced to this character and this Sisu mentality. But on all the specifics, I think this one delivers even more. With that said, there's a few things that might not work or some people won't like about this one. Let's move on to the bad. Really, the big negative here, and perhaps it's more of a mixed aspect, perhaps it's more of a personal taste issue. The big thing that will determine whether you like Sisu 1 or Sisu 2 better is if you're okay with the fact that this movie just says, yeah, this is absurd. We're going to be audacious. We're going for it. It is a more cartoonish film. It's a more over-the-top film. And for me, one of my biggest criticisms of the first film is that it got a little bit too cartoonish. And interestingly enough, this movie is more over the top, more cartoonish, and I think it worked better because of it, because it just embraced it rather than tiptoeing the line of believability and unbelievable. This one just says, I'm not worried about being believable, I'm going for it. And it goes for it. And so for me, just the commitment to we're going to go for the crazy made it kind of work. But you're watching a movie that just kind of takes laws of physics and goes, I don't need those. There's all sorts of things that happen. You're like, oh, that is straight out of a Roadrunner cartoon. Should it be in this movie? I don't know, but it's putting a big grin on my face. And just in general, I mean, it's a movie that's really, really fun. It doesn't really have ambitions beyond that. So it's not like a film that I think is, trying to... It has no grander ambitions, just like, let's do a cool, awesome action movie that's wild and crazy. It delivers that. But, it's a fairly straightforward plot, get from here to there. It's straightforward with kind of all the elements, conflicts. It's a very linear film in all of its logic motivations. There's not like big twist turns that turn everything on its head or anything like that. It's just this straight chase action movie. But that's what I signed up for. But that's when I say that, that's not, it's a negative in the sense of like, there's a cap on, I think, how high I can go with its score. But boy, did it put a big grin on my face. And it was an awesome movie to see at Fantastic Fest. Once again, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what did you think about the film. Also, I interviewed the director and he went into all kinds of detail about a bunch of things, including a little bit on what he's doing with the next Rambo film. I went into this movie as a big fan of the original film, and I think this is the better film. First one will always have the freshness of the first adventure going for it. But I think this has better pacing, it's faster paced, it's bigger action, it incorporates vehicles, so there's variety into everything that takes place, there's more emotion, it's a better villain. All the different specifics, this movie delivered more than the first for me. Overall, it's an A-, an 8.5 out of 10 on the entertainment scale. Action fans, please go see this movie so we can get more actual R-rated action movies. I love these kinds of movies. This is absolutely my kind of thing. So for me, this is a must-see movie. I saw like 25 movies at Fantastic Fest. I think this was my number 2 movie the whole festival. I just had an absolute blast with this film. And if you like the first movie, you probably will too.